It was a big week in the government's root and branch review of competition policy and competition laws. The Harper panel released its draft report and recommendations. It's a 300-page report. It's very comprehensive and it's a great read. So the competition partners here are going to try and pre-digest it somewhat and talk through some of the key proposals in that report. I think the Harper panel's report, if the recommendations are accepted, will have widespread implications for Australian business and indeed for the ACCC itself. Interestingly, the Harper panel recommended the creation of two new institutions, the ACCP, the Australian Council for Competition Policy, and also a new access and pricing regulator. So this has immediate implications for the ACCC, as no regulator wishes to cede jurisdiction. But at the moment, the ACCC has a very broad remit. It's responsible for enforcing the competition laws, the consumer laws, access regulation, competition policy to an extent, and it also has a very significant compliance role. And the Harper panel has really said that that's just too much for the one regulator. And so with the creation of the ACCP, I think the Harper panel's vision is that it will be an advocate for national competition policy, and it will also have some specific powers. One interesting example there is a new power called, in the report, a market studies power. Now, the ACCC had asked to be given such a power, and what it refers to is the ability for a regulator to explore a particular industry or sector, look at it closely and analyse the competitive dynamics in circumstances where it's not conducting any investigation. It may not have any particular enforcement concerns, but it just has a sense that the outcomes are not optimal from a consumer perspective. Now, the ACCC wanted that power because its sibling regulators in overseas jurisdictions currently enjoy such a power. But the Harper panel has recommended that such a power be vested in this new ACCP. And that will have widespread implications for many of our clients who may, by reason of this, become subject to a degree of regulatory scrutiny that they haven't experienced before. Another recommendation of the Harper panel that I think will be welcomed by the business community were the recommendations of a change in the ACCC's governance structure. The panel was complimentary of the ACCC and acknowledged its effectiveness as a regulator, but did recommend that the current system, whereby the chair sits at the top of the commission and underneath him is a group of commissioners that are also involved in the day-to-day operations of the ACCC. The Harper panel's recommendation is that that be replaced with a more traditional corporate board structure comprising independent board members drawn from various different communities: business community, academic community, and consumer community. I think that is a very positive recommendation, and I think it will enhance the effectiveness of the ACCC and its credibility in the business community. The ACCC is a very strong enforcer and is currently conducting many investigations throughout Australia. And I think one very welcome recommendation of the Harper panel will be the comments that the panel made around the ACCC's investigatory powers. So the ACCC issues a lot of what are called Section 155 notices, which enable it to compel companies to produce documents, sometimes vast quantities of documents. And the panel acknowledged the importance of those powers in relation to the ACCC's enforcement activity, but also recognised the very real burden that business operates under when in receipt of such a notice. And so a recommendation of the panel is that the ACCC revisit its guidelines in relation to issuing these notices, that it really try as hard as it can to issue them in as narrow a form as possible, and also to revisit the standard of compliance required of businesses who receive them.